So already the points, some of the points have already been covered. So I will quickly highlight the points that have not been covered. So with regards to the, I mean, of course, we also had a very meandering discussion, and we tried to keep it as much focused as possible. But our team members were very enthusiastic, and we really had some very engaging discussions. So as far as the partnership development goes, I'm going to tie it with the second point on building trusting relationships as well. A recurrent theme that came up in our group was that yes, we agreed that there is a trust deficit that exists between the civil society organization and the government or the policymakers, and that's there. And there is also, to a certain extent, a trust deficit that occurs between the community-based organizations and nonprofits and the community members. The first piece, the trust deficit between the civil society organizations and the government, and also the second piece is essentially a function of the work that we are trying to do. So again, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Different projects, different activities determine whether we are going to have a strong or a weaker trust. However, there was one point which really stood out was the role of the nonprofit or the NGOs is that we should really act as facilitators and bring the community members and the government together or closer, and that should be one of the prime responsibilities of the NGOs. That's one of the things that we should be really working on, and that is a successful strategy for partnership development, which which will be very sustainable. So the third piece was, what was the third piece? Listening and valuing local knowledge. So our group, again, we appreciate the endeavor of listening and valuing local knowledge, traditional practices and cultural practices. But we also recognize the fact that we need to draw a line. As researchers, we do have a responsibility to respect the traditional practices and knowledge, but as researchers, we also have a responsibility to take care of the community's health or public health. For example, in household air pollution research, we have faced so many times that people say that, oh, in the improved cook stores or the LPG, the food doesn't really taste that great. Now that's very much culturally embedded in communities. We know that that might be perception based or so on, but how should we really change this kind of a mental model is something which we have a responsibility to. And that's something that we left open-ended. What should we really do? Where should we draw the line? So that is, again, as a group, we might want to think about. So another piece that I would want to bring in over now, and then the framing of the research question. Again, what we believed is that we should shun this top-down approach of having a very structured, polished research question and then enter the communities. We kind of believed that we should really frame the research questions with the community members. So that was there. We also discussed about there's an exercise called group model building. More of it is something that I'm going to show you tomorrow on really understanding the mental model of each of the community members and then developing a collective mental model while in the process of framing research questions. More we'll be talking tomorrow. And the final piece is on the MOUs and reviewer protocol agreements. One of the things that we also discussed was that as IRB reviewers, it's very important to have a culturally informed person to review these projects. So we felt the need to have a cultural reviewer in a project. So if we get a project to review or to approve, then we should really underscore the importance of those members who could review that project, who belong to that community or who has worked in that community before. So that really kind of completes or closes the entire review process. And finally, I kind of like missed this tension between the personal and the collective. So we had a very interesting discussion on, I think it was on trust relationships. And across our team members, we found that a lot of work that we do, we have this tangle between the personal gain and the collective gain. So, and that has its own implications on trusts. So, for example, if we are, I'm trying to be as generic as possible. So if we are working on a project, as CBPR researchers, we need to be very careful that whether we are addressing the personal gains of one or the other individuals, or whether we are going to address the collective gain of the communities. And this is a perpetual tangle, a perpetual tension that sustains in itself, and we should be very mindful of that. Does that really make sense? Anyone would want to add in from our team members? Mudita, Eddie, anyone else? Okay, great.